Do you want to know? Well, I've been thinking about you, and I think I have to.
Welcome to our first video session of chapter number 7, Control and Coordination. Here, first of all, what this word means, control and coordination. Control of what and coordination with whom? See, we all know that in our environment there are certain changes and every organism have to do a coordination with the environment. Okay? So, in this chapter we are going to understand that type of changes and how to respond to that change. Right? So, first of all, why this coordination is necessary? What is coordination? We have to understand that. See, coordination means a systematic way to respond, and due to that there will be existence of organism in the environment. Every organism have certain way to coordinate with the environment, as we all know. So first, why this coordination is necessary? We all know that due to different changes, due to different stimuli. Now this word stimulus, and if it is plural, so it is also known as stimuli. So what does this word mean? Stimuli or stimulus, it means the change in environment, right, and which gives us sensation. Okay, so a particular act, a particular change which gives us sensation, that is called stimuli. And for different stimuli or different stimulus, we are giving response. What we are doing? We are giving a response. Suppose if we take one example that if suddenly we look at the bright sun, so the sunlight, okay, so when we look at the bright sun, suddenly our eyes become small. Okay, so what we did, our eyes become small, so that is what response. For what we have responded to the stimuli, means that was the bright light. Suppose if you touch any of hot object or any of cold object, right? If you touch any of hot object, so what you will do? Your hand will come back. So the increasing the temperature, right? That is the stimuli. And when your hands come back, that is your response. If we talk about sunflower, so we know that it moves with the sun. So the sunlight, that is the stimuli, and it moves with the sun. That is our response. So this is very important to have a coordination, right? Stimulus and the response. And if there are many stimulus, so that is known as stimuli. So hope you understand the concept of stimulus and all this stimulus, right? We are responding it. So how we get that information? Okay, so as we studied that what is stimulus? Stimulus is a sensation which is felt to us by different receptors. And due to that receptor we will have the sensation, right, and we will do certain type of response. As we have taken one example that when we touch any of hot object, right, suddenly, so our hand will come back. So the increasing in the temperature, the flow of temperature, that is our stimulus, and our hands come back, that is our response. So beta, first what happened? That message, that sensation is conveyed to receptors. Okay, now which type of receptors we have? So just try to identify the receptors. Yes, you are right, we can see, we can hear, we can have touch, right, we can smell also, and we can also have the taste. So according to that we will have different receptors, right? And let's understand about that receptors. First of all, what is receptors? Receptors will accept, it will receive the stimulus, right? So that will be considered as receptors. Okay, so gustatory receptors, right? Gustatory receptors. We will also have olfactory receptors, right? After that we can have photoreceptors, then thigmoreceptors, and at last we will have our phono, or it's our audio receptors. Now see here, this gustatory receptors, it is related with taste, and when it is located, it's located on our tongue. Olfactory receptors, it is related to smell. Okay, so smell we are indicating due to this olfactory receptors. Photo, right? So that means it is related to our vision. So that will be our photoreceptors. Thigmoreceptors, it is related to touch. So it is related to skin. And phonoreceptor or audio receptor, it is related to our ear, right? It is related to our ear. So it is related to our audio. Okay, so this all receptors, due to that we will have different stimulus, and according to that we are going to respond, right? So gustatory receptors, it is related to taste, which is there in tongue. Olfactory receptors in epidermis of nose, that is responsible for smell. Photon receptors, right, or photoreceptors, it is related to the vision, like to see. Thigmoreceptors, it is related to skin, means the feeling of touch, it is taken by thigmoreceptors. And phonoreceptors or audio receptors, which is related to our audio signals, right? It is responsible for our hearing. Okay, so this way different type of receptors are useful to us to have the stimulus. Okay, so receptors will be useful to us to get the stimulus, and as we interpreting that stimulus, we will respond. As we study that different stimulus, it is accepted by the receptor, and according to that we are giving a response. Now, as we all know that in animals there will be a system and there will be hormones. But in plants there will be only such chemicals which is the hormone, right? So the response activity in animals, it will be more in comparison to plants, because plants will respond, they will have the stimulus due to only the hormones, while in animals there will be hormones also and there will be different organs also, right? So according to that we will do respond. Now, if we want to understand that by humans, so we can understand that there will be hormones in humans, due to that they can have the stimulus, and the second one is our system, and generally that is our nervous system. Okay, if we talk about our nervous system, so our nervous system is made up of nerve cells. Many of nerve cells together, they prepare nerve tissues, and by that a whole of our nervous system is formed. So first of all, let's understand that how in nerve cells the message is transferred from one nerve cell to another nerve cell, and how the stimulus, and according to that stimulus how the response is done. So for understanding that, here we will first understand that how the flow of message is done in neurons. Neurons, in another word, we can also call it as nerve cell. Actually, these cells are the longest cells in our body, right? So the nerve cells is the longest cell, and sometimes that nerve cells can be 90 to 100 centimeter long also. In cybernetics within us named book, it's written that we are having that much of neurons in our body, that if we prepare a line of it, so it will be from earth to moon. Okay, so we can assume that how it is. Already in chapter number 6 also we have studied that our small intestine is 6.5 meter long, and how it is compressed in our body. So similarly, the number of neurons are also much more in our body. So first of all, understand that how these neurons are and how they work. So here you can see the figure of neuron or the nerve cells. We can classify it into these three parts, like cell body, then dendrites or dendrites, and axon. Okay. Here you can see the structure. This is our cell body, this particular part, and this is our dendrites, and this will be our axon. This is the nerve ending. Okay. Now let's understand how the message is conveyed from one neuron to another neuron. How the flow of stimulus is done. Okay. So first of all, by different receptors, the message will be conveyed to dendrites. So from this dendrites, the message will be conveyed. Okay. So here you can see that the fiber-like structure, dendrites, it is fiber-like structure. It is fiber-like structure, that is the dendrites. From the receptors, the message is conveyed to the dendrites. Right? In this dendrites, it will create the electrical impulse. Right? So this neurochemical, the electrical impulse, that it is sent to the cell body. How the cell body is? It is nucleated. There will be nucleus present in it. It will be nucleated, and it will be also, it contains cytoplasm. So from that, it will move towards axon, and from axon it will move towards nerve ending. At the end of the axon, it will get converted into again chemical energy. See, the electrical impulse, first the receptors, they will get the signal, it will convert into electrical impulse, it will pass from cell body to axon. At the end of axon, it will get converted again into the neurochemical, or it's also known as neurotransmitters. And see, from this cell ending, right, between the cell ending and the new dendrites, there will be a gap. That gap is known as synapse. That is known as synapse. So from this nerve ending and this dendrites, there will be a gap which is known as synapse. Here in the nerve ending, again that electrical impulse will get converted into chemical, and it will flow to the next dendrites. Right? So this way, that signal, again when it enters into the dendrites, it will get converted into electrical impulse, and it will pass again to the next cell body, then to the axon. End of axon means at the nerve ending, then in synapse it will get converted into chemical, and then again when it enters into new cell, it will be the electrical impulse. So again we can understand that from the receptors, it will be converted into electrical impulse, it will pass from the cell body into axon, right? And from the nerve ending, right, between the nerve ending and the dendrites of the next cell, there is a gap which is known as synapse. Here, the electrical impulse will get converted into chemical form, right? So that will be a neurotransmitter, and it will enter into another neuron's dendrites. And this way, message is conveyed from one neuron to another neuron, and from to different other neurons also. We can understand here that this nerve endings can be attached to the other neurons also. So it can be conveyed to the different neuron tissues, means through different nerve cells to nerve tissues, and it will respond according to the stimulus. Right? After understanding how the message is conveyed from one neuron to another neuron, right, then we will understand that how the response is done for the corresponding stimulus. That how message is conveyed from one neuron to another neuron. So let's also understand its path. So first of all, the stimulus means the act. It is going to get received by the receptors. So that receptors will send it to the dendrites of our nerve cell. This dendrite will have that electrical impulse which will pass from the cell body, and from cell body to axon. As we all know that these small fibers are dendrites, and the large fiber, the long fiber, right, that is our axon. So from dendrites it will move to the cell body, from cell body it will move to the axon, right? As at the end of axon means the nerve ending, right, it will pass through the synapse. Here when it is going from nerve ending to another cell, means when it is passing from the synapse, it will again get converted into chemical, right? So that neuron transmitter, right, it will get connected with the another dendrites of the next nerve cell, right? So it will get connected with the another dendrites of the another neuron. Okay, so from synapse it will move to the another neuron, then in another neuron it will go to the another neuron's dendrites, then again cell body, then axon. Right, this way that message will go to our CNS. CNS means that is our central nervous system. That central nervous system will do the interprediction of the signal which is received, and it will send it to the effector. Now, not directly to the effector. What will happen? That message will be sent to the muscle cells, right? So in that muscle cells is responsible for the response. So from the central nervous system, the message which is sent to our motor cells, right? From that motor cells, it will be done through muscle cells. So from motor cells, right, it will give the message to the muscle cells, and by movement of the muscle, we will do a response of it. So this way, the whole path from stimulus to a response we can understand. Okay, so in today's session, we have discussed about what is called coordination. Coordination, why it is important? Because as the systematic coordination is done, then the function will be in a proper manner, okay, and the living beings will have their existence. Second, after that we have understood what is called stimulus and what is stimuli, right? So the act with the encouragement, right? The encouragement of act or the feel, okay? So that is considered as stimulus. For different stimulus, we will have different response. As we have taken one example, that if suddenly the bright light enters into our eye will become small, okay, it will get closed. So the light is the stimulus, and the response which our eye has done, that is it will get closed, right? So that is the response. Different receptors we have understood, right? Some receptors are responsible for the taste, that was our gustatory receptors. Some are responsible for the vision, that was our photoreceptors. Some were responsible for the hearing, right? That was our audio receptors, right? Some was responsible for the touch, right, related to skin. So that was our thigmoreceptors, right? So this way, different receptors we have understood. Olfactory receptors, which is responsible for smell. Also, we have understood that in animals there will be different system and hormones, but in plants there will be only hormones, right? That is the reason that always animals will have more responsive capability in comparison to plants. After that, we have understood about our nerve cells, or it is also known as neuron, how they are in structure and how they function, how they give response to the stimuli, and how message is conveyed from one neuron to another neuron. Okay, so about their structure and how they function. From this, we have also understood the path of response, right, after the stimulus is done. So the stimulus, it will be accepted by the receptors. The receptor will send a signal in form of electrical impulse to dendrites of the cell. From that, it will pass to the cell body, which is nucleated cytoplasm containing, which go to the longest fiber, that is our axon, through the nerve ending, and from nerve ending, so the gap between the nerve ending and the another dendrite means the gap between two neurons, that is known as synapse, right? So in this synapse, it will again get converted into chemical, and the another dendrites will receive it and will convert it into electrical impulse, and that way it will pass through one neuron to another neuron to different neuron tissues, and from different neuron tissues it will move to our central nervous system. Our CNS, central nervous system, will do the interprediction of the signal and will send the another signal to the motor cells. That motor cells will send the signal to the motor muscles, and that will do the movement, right, which will be as our response to the corresponding stimulus. So it will be sent to the effectors. So according to that, the response will be done for different stimulus. Okay, so this way we have what is called stimulus, how the receptors are receiving that stimulus, how they are responding on it, that we have understood, and how the structure of neuron is and how they functions. So hope you understood today's topic. This topic is given to you in your worksheet. Okay, so complete your worksheet and assignment and send it on time.